This is Nick Ricada, and you're listening to a Sunset Sea production. It's better than whiskey.
Welcome to another episode of Imperial Reposes. This is the series where I, Holden, and my co-host over there, Simone, we just hang out, we chill, we talk about whatever's on our minds, nothing too crazy, no real schedule or anything, no real itinerary. I mean, I've got a list of topics that we can go over, but for the most part, it's just chill. It's just us hanging out for an hour or so, and you guys can watch, and we'll do whatever. As we go through this episode, I'll be playing. Over here, I've got. If you can see that, No Man's Sky fired up on my PS4, so I'll be playing that. I'm trying to get all the words in the Korvax language because I've gotten all the words for the Gek and the other one, the Vicar. So there are three alien languages in the game, and they all have like 700 words each, and so I gotta get them all, and it's a grind. It's kind of boring, so I put it on. I do that when I'm doing other things, like if I'm listening to music or something, I'll play No Man's Sky and try to get all the words, just because it's something that I wouldn't do on my own. So it's fun for that. It's good for that. It's good mindless busy work, whatever. But yeah, let me just kick off the show real quick. Gonna try some new things. Try new little traditions. Got a harmonica here, so there you go. Yay! Right? Yeah. And as usual, of course, we've got our mascot here, and or for no reason. And yeah, that's basically everything on my end of things. How are you doing, Simone? How's your day been so far and everything? What's going on with you?
Uh, I got a new haircut. My cousin experimented with my hair.
Oh yeah, are you
Uh,
you happy with it or?
yeah, I'm satisfied. It's better than on the other side of going to the barber shop because of the surge of the COVID-19 cases in our area.
Okay, that's too bad. But what were you going for? Like, what kind of style did you want?
Uh, I wanted to look like a bit more better, not just I look quite bald in this haircut. I always been.
Okay, cool. Do you prefer like do you prefer shorter or longer or I don't know.
I'm shorter haircut.
Okay. What kind of hair do you have? Is it like curly or wavy or like soft or hard or like is it easy to maintain or do you have to put like a lot of gel in when you go to school and stuff like that?
I don't put any gels on my hair or any stuff on it. Before it's quite wavy and curly, but now I don't know what happened. It's just look like Einstein when it's really long. It's standing up.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mine can be like that too. It kind of gets long after like 3 weeks or so. So like twice a month I think I go to like well no I don't I get a haircut like once a month honestly. It takes like 2 weeks to grow, and then like the third week's kind of it starts to get a bit too long, and then by the fourth week it's like it's there's like so much hair on my head that I have to like constantly I don't know I have to use twice as much shampoo and stuff. It's kind of wasteful at that point. I feel it's like I don't really like my hair doesn't get long. It's not it doesn't grow in length. It grows in mass. It just there's just a lot of hair on my head. It's not so much that it goes like down to here or anything. It just gets to be very like dense. You know what I mean? So that's how it is with me. I get it cut like once a month, once every month, maybe like once every month in like a week. So like maybe every 5 weeks, I'd say I get my hair cut. But yeah, it can grow pretty fast. But I kind of like it long sometimes. It just depends on the time of year and all that. But let me pull this up right here real quick. I am recording my screen, so I want to be I'm recording this by recording my screen, so I want to make sure that I don't like obscure the camera. So give me a second. I'll use my notes on my phone. That's something I need to do, and I need to also make sure that I don't put the mouse where the thing is, so that people aren't like looking at it the entire time. So yeah, give me a sec. Uh, just pull this up real quick. There. Pull these later. All right. So let's get this going. All right. So you recently finished a book that I recommended you by the Norwegian author Karl Ove Knausgaard, who's you know people like him. You know, a lot of people like him. He blew up after writing a 6 volume autobiographical novel called My Struggle, and it's not the Hitler book. It's a completely different thing. But I had you read book 4, which was the volume about his teenage years and stuff, and you finished it. So now that you're done with it, I don't know. What'd you think? Talk me through some of it.
Uh, I think see now that I'm reading the continuation of the fourth volume, the fifth volume, I'm reading it, so I get into understanding of who he is in the first in the fourth volume, but I get into his character more, or I tend to understand more of the characters when I get into the next book. It's just I guess that it's deep, but it's not as deep as the fifth volume. The the connection that I get from the on how would I understand him.
What page are you on right now?
Let me check my book. 328.
Oh, really? On the 5th one? Book 5?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Cool. And what do you think of that one so far? Now that you're like more than halfway through it.
Mm. I thought his brother doesn't really have uh, much significance in his life because he's not even mentioned that much in book 4, because there's a reason he's away from his brother, so maybe that's the reason he's not um, mentioned on what are the things that are happening. So in this one, they have more time to bond, so the need to get together. So I get more of it gives more of the aspect of his brother.
Right, yeah, because I mean, in the period that they describe in book 4, he's living away from home and everything. He's kind of living away from his family, and they're just. It's not that they're not close. It's just that they live different lives. They've got their own stuff going on. So they're the paths of both of their lives. They don't really intersect as often as they should. But keep in mind that um, book 4 is only set over like a course of like a few years. You know what I mean? So it's like that kind of happens in life. Sometimes things come up and you have to tend to certain major events and everything. Like you got to work or you got to go to school or whatever. So book 5 is only set like a little. It's set immediately after book 4, so it's really it's not that they were like never close or anything. It's not like in book 5 that's like the first time they've ever really been in regular contact with each other. I mean they grew up together, but yeah, that is something that is like it's pretty consistent in their in the books overall, in the series overall, that the two of them they're a little distant. It's kind of weird. They have a weird relationship. It's like an on and off sibling relationship. It's like one minute they're the only two people who really understand each other or whatever. It's a really nice kind of intimate, close sibling relationship, brotherhood, fraternity that they've got going on. And then the next minute is like they're total strangers and they're completely different people and they have really nothing to say to each other and they kind of don't like each other. Or at least his older brother Ingvi doesn't really like the younger brother Karl Ove. You kind of see that he tends to dismiss him every once in a while. So it's a weird there's a weird dynamic going on there. Part of you almost understands why he throws a glass at him. I mean, it's a very transgressive act. It's a very violent act. It's very unnecessary, but it does come from somewhere. There's a weird animosity in that relationship, and there's this a weird coldness. But then it just depends on whenever they're meeting up with each other. It depends on the circumstances of their I guess of their association at whatever given time. Given point in the narrative that they that's described in. It's weird. It's weird how that works, but I guess it does. Oh shit! Come on. I guess it does attest to the complexity of just most uh, the average human relationship. You know what I mean? Just the interactions between two people in general. But I don't know. Anything else? What happens
Yeah,
in
yeah,
yeah? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. I get it. I thought maybe because it's a book, I thought that it's just an expectation that I didn't know that the book would be about his just a portion or a fragment of his life. So I thought that the story would be more concrete analysis or regarding the people around him. So maybe uh, that's what I think I really gone too far on my expectations, but I tend to understand the things that I think I gone too far. So yeah, that it's good that the book part is a good to start with regards to reading uh the whole volumes of the my struggle, because because of the things that I did that are not included in the book for, I tend to adjust my understanding on how should I approach the reading, on what are the things that could happen.
Right, and I mean that's the thing about all these books, anyways. Because you started on 4, you didn't get to see that in book 1 they establish the kind of relationship he has with his brother through memories and through when their dad dies, they get together and make arrangements for the funeral and everything. And so that you get that interaction there that's established there. And then in book 2, it's continued when he's an adult, when they're adults and they meet up. Their two families have like reunions and get together for family events and holidays and all that. And then in book 3, it's their childhood together. So if you were reading it in order, you would have had all of that to begin with. But because you read it kind of in the middle of the series, it makes sense that you didn't get that. But yeah, each one is set in a very specific period in his life, a very specific era. So it's not necessarily true that the things that like the way that his life was when he was a teenager, it's not going to be the way that it was when that it is as an adult. It's very different a lot of the time. He'll live in completely different places. He'll associate with completely different people, just like in most lives. It's like the people you knew when you were 7 aren't the same people that you know now at 17. And the things you do,
Exactly.
the places you go to, the people you spend time with, the things you do in your spare time, it's all completely different. It's always changing. Life is constantly changing, and that's really what the books try to emphasize the most, and that's what I like. They trace change. They track, progress. They lay out those patterns of life from one point to the other, all the way through. You get to see that. You get to see the patterns of life in motion as they're happening, and that's really significant because when you see it in the example of somebody else, you can apply it to your own life. It's something that it's something that I think everyone should know, a little more about. I honestly feel like if everyone read this, maybe not necessarily these books that we're talking about right now, but if they just read books like that, books that did the same things, that offered you the same sort of perspective and insight, and that vantage point, kind of a head above the clouds kind of perspective, point of view, can really help you. Because that's the great thing about literature, is that everything is on the page. Everything is laid bare, and it makes it a lot easier to see things that you wouldn't be able to see otherwise because you're too close to them. It's like how when you're dealing with something, like if you're in the middle of grief, for example, if a family member's died or something, it's like you can't really be objective about it. You can't look at yourself and say, well, in a few months' time, I'll be over it. I'll be working or something. I'll be too busy doing other things, being caught up in life, in my own life, to worry about the death of somebody else. Somebody else's life ending or whatever. You can't be objective about that until the moment is past, because we are all victims to our emotions, whether we're willing to admit it or not. Human beings are just as much slaves of their emotions and urges, I guess, natural urges and whatever, just our animalistic behavior as any other animal. You know what I mean? So that's really what it comes down to, and yeah, I think what makes the struggle books so good is the fact that Knausgaard wrote them when his father died. He wrote them to process his father's death. I think the fear of death, the fear of extinction, is a great it's a great motivator. It's a great source of artistic and literary inspiration. I mean, just look at countless examples, but I think that's really what makes them so good. That's the power behind all of them, because his dad died, it forced him to examine his own life, and it's just that's how things work a lot of the time, and it's interesting to think of, but yeah, and the good thing about reading it is that you don't have to have your own dad doesn't have to die in order for you to come to the same conclusions and stuff that he did, and you also don't have to fuck up as much with as many girls as he did, since he was like a teenager, right? Because like consistently, that's one of the other things too. It's like throughout his entire life, the one thing Knausgaard is like consistently doing is fucking things up with girls that he meets, So it's like you look at him, you look at the mistakes he made, you look at how he let his, I guess, emotions get the better of him, his anxieties, his insecurities, his doubts, whatever. You look at that and you go, fuck, I don't want to be like that, I don't want to do that, And then you move on. You take that, you apply it to your own life, whatever. It doesn't even have to get that deep either, because it at the same time, it's just a good story too. It's entertaining. It works on all sorts of levels, and that's what makes it good, is that it is a multifaceted and multi-use work of fiction, and that's why I suggested it to you. So I don't know, like, do you get that out of reading it? Like, do you feel like it really is all those things, or am I just hyping it up a bit too much?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I tend to, this conversation helps me to function the thoughts that I didn't come up with, or maybe I come up with this thoughts or emotion while I am reading, or the experience, but I didn't find the words to how could I describe each moment, or how would it pass. I think this book is a great guidance for me to, for example, in this part of the lives, I'm transitioning to college, or there are a lot of things that would happen in the next 2 to 3 months. So I might be shocked, or because compared to, because pretty much since elementary up to till now, it seems like the same approach from all the people that I encountered. I'm living in this small community, and everyone is it's really close. The treatment or the each relationship are kind of the same, but there are also some, for example, just like in the life of Karl, that there are also parts that are on and off relationships. You didn't, for example, people that will go or people that will come. You didn't look at them that, oh, these people are only this only staying for a short while or something. You just lives go on. So just like what happened in that part, there are some people that, for example, right now we're talking. So this this kind of moment, for example, that you didn't kind of think of this that will happen, or just like yeah.
Yeah, life's unexpected, things just kind of happen, and they also kind of stop too, things start, stop, everything. Yeah, for me, I think, so here's how I see it, I like Knausgaard a lot, I have a lot of respect for him, but it's kind of hard, looking back now. I've only read books 4 and 5, so when you finish book 5 and start on book 3, you'll be ahead of me, because I've only read books 4 and 5. I've only ever skimmed the rest of the volumes. I haven't finished any of them yet. I haven't even really started any of them yet. I tried to start 3, but I couldn't get into it because he tries to write like himself. He tries to write from the perspective of a child, because in book 4 he writes from the perspective of his younger teenage self, and then in book 5, I guess he just writes as his younger, kind of like mid 20s self. But in volume 3, he tries to write from the perspective of a kid as an adult, and it doesn't work as well. I don't know. I kind of feel like the problem is that I think, as much as I like Knausgaard, I kind of see him as an overgrown adolescent in a lot of ways. Like, he's still a teenager in a lot of senses. His general worldview, his like personal philosophy or whatever, it's all influenced by the kinds of things that you would discover as like a teenager, right? Like the books of Fyodor Dostoevsky and Knut Hamsun, writers like that, literary modernism and stuff. Those are all things that appeal to teenagers, younger people. And he mentions this in book 2. He talks about how the only people who tend to take Dostoevsky serious in the modern seriously in the modern day and age are teenagers. Most adults would look at it and go, that's old, or I already learned that in high school. I already learned about it in high school. I don't really need to care about it anymore. Or whatever. He says that the kinds of questions that someone like Dostoevsky would ask about faith and systems of belief and the powers that kind of dictate our lives and what we're what we influence and what we're influenced by, our relationship, the relationship between the world and ourselves and the universe and us, and our place in it, the dynamic that goes on between the two of those and all of that stuff. Basically just the grand scheme of life in general, and existence, existentialism. He says that people don't really, a lot of people these days don't really take existentialism seriously, especially because now we're living in we're living in postmodernism or whatever, a postmodernist society, all that shit. So a lot of people, they tend to think that they're above that they've moved past that now, that they're too good for it, It's like how you would look at an older movie or something and go, well, it's okay for what, for the times, but I can't really watch it now. Or like opera, like we just talked about in the most recent Imperial Tides podcast episode. We covered Tosca, and it was a very it was a very basic story, and we both agreed that it was it was okay, it was fine for its time, but it doesn't really hold up now. There's a certain arrogance in that. There's a certain condescension in that. Just because we just so happen to be from a time that came a lot later along than theirs did. We kind of feel like we're superior to them. We feel like we're better than them because we had the privilege, we had the great fortune to learn a bunch of shit and to have the sort of cultural revelations about certain things. I guess, I don't know, just not to get political or anything, but not that it's necessarily political, but we're not we have different attitudes towards race, towards sexuality, towards the relationships between cultures around the world. It's like the world was a lot more divided then. It was a lot more, people were a lot more insulated in their culture. The French and the Brits hated each other. I mean, they still kind of do. That might always be a thing, but there are things like that. Africa wasn't taken seriously at all. It was a place to kind of step all over, as far as the Europeans saw it, which is why they're all high and mighty these days, by the way. And then I guess the Americans too. Sure, you could say a bunch of shit about America. I mean, but and the Philippines too as well. I mean, that whole thing. We had a whole thing, both of ours. Philippine American wars, all that shit, colonization and stuff. It happened. It happened, and it's been a while since it happened, and we can look back on it now. We're so lucky. Like I don't think any of us really understand how lucky we are to be able to look at that and go, huh, that's cool, and to ignore it. Like that was their reality, that was their life. I mean, we can look at their lives and go, it's an interesting story. It's kind of cool. And then we can put that away and go back to our lives. And, we have the freedom to do that. We have the luxury. That's pretty fucking cool. You know what I mean? That's pretty interesting, I think. And it's not something that a lot of people are either willing to or capable of appreciating, It's something that they tend to kind of just to brush past, and it's a little disappointing. I feel like if people had more respect for history in the past and where we come from, how we got to the point we're at now, the world would be a better place. We wouldn't have all these stupid political squabbles and stuff because people would think critically about things. They'd be able to look back at the past, use history as examples. The examples that history laid before us, right, and will continue to lay before us, hopefully. Unless everything gets really fucked up and people just think purely with their emotions, because that's really what's been going on lately. I think a lot of the problems in the world today are the result of a lack of critical thinking in the general population, just around the world in any country. Just the global population. People don't think critically anymore, and more importantly, people think with their emotions. And I think that that's something that social media, things like social media, the internet, all that, they really facilitate that. Because the tech companies and stuff, not to get into a whole fucking conspiracy theory about it, because it isn't really a conspiracy. It's true. It's the way it is. Tech companies, they thrive off clicks. That's how they make their money. They make ad revenue. Oh God, voice crack. They make ad revenue. They get money off of user interaction and stuff. The more people who use their service, the more money they make. So of course they're gonna try to profit off of. They're gonna try to monetize rage and emotions. You know, they're going to try to piss you off so that you stay on, and you get stuck in this fucking unhealthy kind of feedback loop, behavioral feedback loop, in which you're just every single day you're going onto Twitter to get into, you know, arguments, stupid little keyboard warrior arguments with people on the other end of the political aisle, let's say, you know, or whatever. Or you go on Facebook and you read some post that some moron made about like how evil a certain politician is, you know, not even just an American politician, Filipino politician as well, you know. You got that guy Duterte, everyone hates him. He's like the, you know, he's like the Filipino Trump or whatever. He's just a scapegoat, you know. He's just a person to point out and go, that's a bad man, that's a bad guy. Let's just blame everything on them, you know. It's all shit. It's all bullshit, and people don't they don't take the time to fully understand anything, and they let their emotions dominate them, and they're fucking retarded, and it's gonna fuck everybody up. You know, it really is. I don't know, man. In 50 years time, who knows if Western civilization is gonna be a thing anymore, or Eastern civilization, any kind of civilization. You know, we haven't really been in a civilized society, global society, or anything for a very long time. It really pisses me off. You know, there's no such thing as culture anymore, really. Or if there is, it's being jeopardized, you know, constantly. It's under threat. It's been under threat every single day since honestly, since the end of the 2000s, maybe, you know, since maybe 2010, honestly. Might have been the beginning of the end. I don't know. Is there anything you want to add to my little rant there? I hope it was it was comprehensible. I don't know if I'm making sense right now. It's kind of hot. I might be losing my mind. I might not be getting enough oxygen to my brain with all this shit I'm wearing right now.
Yeah, I guess what sets the previous generation or the people from the past different from us is just they hide this uh, they look back to the past. They respect the people from the past or the history itself. For example, they kind of disturb what they came from. They give so much value to it. From now, from what will happening not only in the Philippines, I can see, but now on where I'm living, it's just because it's not because of the colonization that we undergo. I guess it's more on the modernization that we had experienced because I didn't feel much the effects of the colonization. It's much more on the modernization side. For example, this right in front of you, or iPhone, or the latest issues that that are the country use or whatever. It's more on it falls on the side of modernization rather than in the colonization. So yeah, and if people will look at the history, I guess it's cool. We didn't get the chance to study history that much. It's just for example in 8th grade we're going to talk about this certain a brief history of a brief world history, or in 7th grade we're going to talk about the history of the Philippines. So that's all. It only happened at one point of our lives. So maybe if the curriculum, or not only the curriculum of the people itself, will give value to spend time to understand why all the foundation that that has that got us to this points of our life. Maybe not only the Philippines, as like you said, the world will be so much better.
Yep. And I have a theory about, institutionalized learning. I don't think it's very good. I think if I think a lot of the things that we should know in life, we have to teach ourselves. It just comes down to that. It's as simple as that. The bureaucracy of the most school systems, most administrative systems of any capacity, in education, in work, in government, just everything, all facets of society, all facets of life. If there's something that you want to know, you got to teach it to yourself. You have to go out there and you have to find it. You have to do it on your own. And we live in, as messed up as a lot of social media and internet services and whatnot are, it's like what it comes down to is just it's the same as anything else in life and anything else in the over the course of of humanity and mankind and existence, whatever. It's self-control, it's self-discipline, and it's self-direction, self-directing. We just have to resist the urge to give into some algorithm or whatever. We just have to tell ourselves, fuck it, I'm not going to go on my phone for 5 hours today, just scrolling through nothing, doing jack fucking shit. I'm going to listen to some music that I've never listened to before. I'm going to read some book I've never read before. I'm going to go on Wikipedia and read articles about something that I don't know much about. I'm going to go on YouTube and listen to an hour-long lecture about like a book that I, might have learned about a little bit about in class at school, but just didn't really get too, in depth into too much, I didn't do the kind of analysis that I wanted to do with it. I'm going to dive a little deeper this time, get really into it, get into the nitty gritty, find out what it's really about, what the teachers won't tell me, what a few bullshit busy work assignments won't get me to learn, things like that. It's all about, what's the self-determination. Self-determination is the key. That's the word that's the term I was looking for. I mean, self-determination. All the greats did it, it's what you have to do. It's what everyone's had to put up with since the dawn of civilization, the dawn of man. And, in the 21st century, we have everything we need. We have all the resources available to us to actually do it. So why the fuck not, What's our excuse, honestly? What the fuck's our excuse? You go back in time, you go to the days of the Roman Empire, You get killed if you say the wrong thing about the wrong person, If you can't criticize politicians there. Imagine these people who hate Trump, back in the days of the Roman Republic, making fun of bashing Julius Caesar. They get their fucking heads, crushed. They get executed in the streets. You know what I mean? They'd be made an example of. You don't do that shit back in the days of, the real tyrants, real tyranny, real dictatorships. Even as recent as 1940, obviously, the guy, Hitler. Even less, even more recent, dude. This shit's happening every day still. It's not as if the whole world's perfect, Look at Africa. It's a fucking shithole. I'm sorry, but it is. Like a lot of it's messed up. It's not it's not pleasant. Look at South Africa. It's not figured anything out yet, Apartheid was only a few decades ago, and they're still, Nelson Mandela and all that shit. I don't want to go on a whole rant, but you know what I mean, right? You know what I mean. I don't know. What do you think? Oh God.
Yeah, I think with regards to the aspects of schools or educational learning, it's just education system when it comes to learning. It's just people are being upper critical, like me, students like me. I've been too dependent on the system, or just relying on the culture or the process that I've been using since from first grade to up to now. For example, they're giving assignments, so I need to hand it out. But the eagerness to learn is not wasn't there. The determination that you needed to really get into the lesson or mean more than not just only in the sake for passing the subject, but also to really improve as an individual from the material. That's what school lacks. It was only in terms of the whole curriculum only links to or the sake of per saying that you get a diploma or you're being to be able to be qualified on stepping to the next part of your life.
Right. Hey, your audio is kind of crackling. You should are you using like a different kind of setup or something this time? Because it's kind of it's not cutting. It's kind of cutting in and out. There's like a bit of a bad connection. So I'll give you some time to figure that out. I'll keep talking. But do you mind muting yourself for a little bit?
I think it's in the connection. Your voice kind of cutting a bit.
Oh, it's the connection. Okay, that's fine. We'll roll with it. It's okay. It's not that big a deal. So we'll push through. We will push through. But yeah, mean, I guess to kind of redirect the conversation back to where it was before, um, I don't know. I like Knausgaard, but I kind of feel like he's almost more like a contemporary than he is like a master of any sort. You know what I mean? I don't see him in the same way that I see someone like Dostoevsky or Leo Tolstoy or Charles Dickens or something, or Hemingway. For me, Knausgaard is like a friend. You know what I mean? He's like a literary friend. You read his books so that you can have someone to kind of identify with, someone to relate to, someone to yeah, he's like a peer. He's kind of like an older brother almost. He's like a mentor kind of, but he's not. I don't know. There's something about his writing and his style and everything, just his perspective and all that kind of keeps me from seeing him the same way as I would someone someone who's maybe more established with a bigger reputation, someone who's kind of been canonized, as far as literature goes, like Dickens or something. Like I don't feel like I could talk to Dickens the way that I could talk to Knausgaard. So it kind of there's good and bad that comes with it. But for me, it's like I like Knausgaard, but he's kind of like a gateway writer for me. He's not the end. Like he started everything for me. But it's like Bukowski as well, Charles Bukowski. It's like I read it, I enjoyed it, it changed me, but I've changed now. I'm not the same person that I was when I first read it. So I kind of feel a little differently towards him now. I kind of feel like there's this distance between myself and him and in his work, and I'm starting to feel that way about Knausgaard too. I know I'll finish all of his books eventually, but it's at this point I kind of want to read other things, and so while we're on that subject, I'll show you, and I'll show everybody else in the audience, so a couple of the books that I just got in the mail. So I just got these a couple days ago, and here they are. It's inverted on the thing, so I'll just have to read it. But it's this one's called "The Middle Passage: The Caribbean Revisited" by V.S. Naipaul. He's and here's the other one, both by the same guy. V.S. Naipaul, A Writer's People: Ways of Looking and Feeling, and he was the winner of, I think it was like the 2002 Nobel Prize for literature. So Nobel Prize winning author. He's from Trinidad and Tobago. I guess he's technically a post-colonial writer, but whatever the fuck that means, right? I mean, he's just a writer. I don't know. All those terms are relative. It's the same as like world music or something. It's like, well, if that term was invented in the Middle East, then American music and English, UK music would be, Western music would be world music technically, and Middle Eastern music would be regular music, I guess. It's all relative, but yeah, that V.S. Naipaul, he's like a travel writer. I've shown you his stuff before. You've seen interviews with him. I've recommended a bunch of books of his to you. He's interesting. He's kind of, I don't really have a political standpoint or anything, but I mean, these days it's the leftists that cause a lot of bullshit that goes on, so I tend to not really, I don't really like, left wing opinions these days. It kind of turns me off just with everything that's going on, and Naipaul's kind of he's a left leaning type, he writes a lot about, but the thing about it for me is that he was a writer, he writes about racism in the 1960s. That's valid, writing about, using that shit, taking advantage of a real issue today and turning it into some political debate or whatever. I don't have any respect for that at all, because it's a corruption of the real issue at hand. And I'm half Asian, I'm half white, half Asian, I'm biracial, so I feel like I can have an opinion on this, and you're full Filipino, to most American liberals, your opinion should be completely valid, right? So we're both okay. We're both perfectly fine to talk about this if we're going to play by their fucking rules, which is bullshit, but whatever. If we're going to play by their rules, I mean, we win. So in any case, I don't know. We're advantaged by them, I guess. But long story short, I think he's okay. But I just, I got him because I wanted to get a writer who was, for one, a travel writer, someone who's been around the world, and two, someone who has a slightly different perspective from me, because I want to expose myself to all sorts of perspectives. So I got him partly because I don't agree with a lot of what he says and a lot of his opinions and stuff. But I don't know. What do you think? What was the impression you got of Naipaul from the interviews I showed you of him on YouTube like a few months ago, 3 or 4 months ago?
Yeah, I admire his patriotism, patriotic. He's being patriotic with regards to his country, to India. I never been so patriotic regarding my country. I think to be patriotic is somehow to give much care regarding the political problems in the country, because that's what make it rolling, or keep the lives of the citizens going. I tend to embrace because I think the political system is really messed up, so I didn't give much care about it. So I tend to focus on my personal experience, because at my age, I didn't give much care about the politics. Uh, I mean, maybe in 2 to 3 months, I'll get involved. So now I'm trying to get into to get into research regarding the political system, so that I can be a knowledgeable voter on my own standards, I guess, based on the way how it should be on own uh, my real definition. But I still haven't have my own definition, so I got that need to learn that to come up with to make sense of the book that I'm going to uh, submit.
Right, yeah, yeah. You got to be a smart voter. You actually have to inform yourselves on, you inform yourself on the issues. That's kind of that should be obvious to people, but apparently it's not. Common sense is not as common as we would hope it would be. As we'd like to think it is. But yeah, yep. So book 4, book 5. Anything else you want to say about Knausgaard?
About Knausgaard, I guess that when you don't know about for example, a person that we see in the street, or something very wrong. For example, doing some violence or something, we gotta judge him or solely in the basis that are virtues. It's against the virtues that we had. But uh, to see Knausgaard to get into his own thoughts, I try to more understand with regards to this book. Yeah, in regards to the culture, not especially on the understanding to everyone, because they're I'm still working on my youth temper at times. So, but in the aspect of the culture, there are some prejudice that people from different cultures, of course, have with regards to different one. So I had it gave me a knowledge regarding the different how will I understand, or what should I do to step a little further to understand them from the differences that we have. Karl seems like a friend. Uh, he's talking not only to me, but also it's just from what he's thinking, what you can reflect from it, and that's actually what I enjoy the most.
Yeah, yeah. And would you say that book 4, book 5 is better for that kind of reflection that you like from his writing?
Yeah, I think so, because before I remember uh, you asked me to read the next in the please. I agree with you that it's written on the different perspective. For example, it's, she's sharing some experiences from his course with climbing up some mountain, some hills, or playing when it's raining or something. So it's written on the perspective of itself, not in the same perspective in that I'm enjoying right now. But we'll see.
Cool. Which so out of all the other books, because you've already got book 4 and 5 and 3, but I guess as far as like books 3, 2, and 1 and then 6 go, which one of those are you looking forward to reading the most? And then also, which one are you looking forward to reading the least? Like, is there any among those last four that you don't really want to read as much as the others, or something? Like, what's your order for those last four books that you would want to read?
Um, Maybe I read the book 2, then book 1, and book 3, and I'll I read lastly. I didn't get much interested in book 6 because you said that it's more some analysis of some painting of the book, or it doesn't. It's different from book 4 and 5.
Yeah, book 6 is an extended essay on Hitler. It's like a biography of Hitler or something. It's kind of it's nothing like the other ones. It's very different. So I would save that one for last. But the order I would do it in would probably be book 2, book 3, book 1, and then book 6. Just because books 4, 5, and 2 are like a trilogy. They're all set right after each other, basically. So that's what I would do. So I would get book 2, read that. You already have book 3, so then read book 3 after that, because book 3 is like a standalone anyway. It's the earliest in the chronology, I guess, of his life. It is like a standalone story. It might as well be. But yeah. And then book 1's like the introduction. So and then book 6 is just the end. It's completely different and everything. So yeah, I don't know. Any final thoughts on Knausgaard before we move on to the next topic of conversation here?
I wanted to read book 1 first for the future because I'm interested to know where does it all start.
Yeah, cool. So so what do you think of Blade? What do you think of the Swedish music artist, rapper, alternative artist Blade?
Uh, that's really great. Still, when it comes to the solution of a surreal, it's different from what I expected. For example, the dark music I have on the internet, and I try to listen it. It's just to compare it to the common surreal, what people's definition of surreal music is just it's similar to each other, and then this one is compared to what we have in Blade. I didn't expect that these songs will offer a more connection or much deeper an avant-garde piece of art.
Right. Hey, so I can't really understand what you're saying. Your connection's really bad, so I think what you might have to do is just turn your camera off and do audio only, and let's see if that clears it up a little bit. So do you want to try doing that for a bit, and we'll see if it's any better, because I couldn't really understand what you were saying for like the past 5 minutes. So let's try to fix that, while we can. So go ahead and just turn your camera off for a bit, and I'll let you know if it's any better. All right. So let's test it now, I guess. Just while we're here. Talk to me about your favorite Blade song. Out of all the tracks that I showed you, which one do you like the most and why?
Loveless Drive. That's what I enjoy the most. Because it summarizes the for the players by the song that you introduced me. I thought that it would be uh, with this hyper pop beats, but when I get into this novel start, I get really caught. I think I'm listening to it all day, um, every, every day, but not all day long. I set a special time to listen to the song to get the full experience out of it. That's how I see music. It's you need to set a certain mood or certain a preparation to really get a lot.
Okay, you can turn your camera back on now because I want to compare it. So just turn it back on and then we'll keep talking and I'll let you know if it's better or not. So you can turn it back on whenever you're ready. All right, cool. So you like Noblest Strive, and I would agree. Out of all the songs he's made, it's probably the most like optimistic, I guess, and the most artistically significant. You can tell that he put a lot of like there's craft to it. There's something in the composition that I have a lot of appreciation for. Maybe not appreciation, but I have a lot of respect for it. I don't know if but yeah, I think it's good. Any others besides that you like in particular? Because he's got a lot of good songs, but some stand out, some stand above the rest.
Other than that, I listen to some of the songs in no particular order, so I forgot the title of the songs that I listened to.
Okay. Guess he's gone. You guys, it's it's really fucking hot wearing this. Let me check what the weather is over here. Actually, I want to see what temperature it is right now. It's 70 degrees, and my room is not like well insulated or whatever. It's not. It's kind of fucked up. It's like right on the street, so all the heat from outside is coming into here, and even if I have the fan on, even if I do everything I can to stay as cool as possible, this room heats up in the summer and freezes in the winter. So it's kind of fucked up. But yeah, and so it's not really the best idea to be wearing like a hoodie and fucking like winter hat and sunglass. I mean, sunglasses are fine, but a fucking like a face mask and stuff too. I honestly didn't even want to do a mask, but it just kind of happened, like I didn't want to do the hoodie either. I had no real plans. I was going to do the hat because the hat's what I have for my profile pic and his hat's what he has for his profile pic. So that was really the only thing I cared about including in my look for, going on for when I went on camera. But yeah, I don't know. I might have to change this up. I like how bright it is. I like how, it kind of pops. It kind of stands out. It's kind of cool looking. Like I could be a character with this, but it's kind of hot and I'm kind of running out of breath and the mask is making it hard to talk and breathe. And I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm losing my shit wearing it. So maybe we'll have to discontinue it eventually. I don't know. Well, but maybe I'll work through it. Maybe I'll get used to it. I'm not sure. But I feel like I'm overheating. So I don't know. Just like my laptop, which I can fix now. By the way, though, I figured out how to do it. If I go into iMovie and I turn up noise reduction, background noise reduction to 100%, it'll get rid of the fan. So that's fine. The only thing we really have to worry about now is just the connection, because your side of it, Simoun's kind of messed up because your voice kind of cuts in and out sometimes. But if we can figure that out, we'll be set. We can do on camera appearances all the time from here on out. That could be the new norm. So yeah. But you're back now. What's up?
Yeah, I need to. I, my pets, they're really pleasure, so I give them some treats.
What?
Uh,
Just make sure you speak up so that even if it cuts out, like I'll still be able to hear you if you
I think
speak up a little more.
this animals, they're really loud, so I need to.
Oh, hey, it's a dog. No, hey, what's the dog's name?
Uh, they're really loud, so I need to give them some treats.
Okay, cool. What's the dog's name?
Uh, I don't know. It's quite crazy how they name I just Mochi and Chalo.
Oh, cool. What kind of dog? What kind of dogs are they? What breed?
Uh, Aspin, Asong Pinoy or Filipino dog.
Okay. Is it like is it a pet or do you use it on your farm or whatever? Like, does it have a job?
Uh, a pet. It's just a pet. Or some for protection or something. They're always in the outside, so if there are some people that are wanted guests or something, they're bark all the time.
Oh, cool. Cool. Okay. Nice. Are they friendly or do they bite and stuff?
They're really friendly. I just they're
Do you
they're doing something bad to this guy.
yeah, do you guys do you
They're
train
they're wrestling with this cat. I don't know what's here.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of cat enjoy what they're doing.
Do you guys train them or
No, we don't.
oh, okay. Well, I guess it's gone again. How's it going, everybody? How's your days going? Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are better off than I am right now. I'm fucking burning up over here. My blood is going to start boiling, and not in an angry way, but just I'm fucking dying over here. It's like a million. I might as well be sitting in a fucking like heater right now. I might as well be sitting in a heater. Yeah, I don't know. It's like being in a hot car. I'm wearing a hot car on me. I don't know why I thought this was a good idea. I live in a desert. I literally live in a desert, and I decided to wear a fucking hoodie and a winter hat and all this shit, and I'm like dying, you know. So, but I don't. Enough of that. Okay, so Simoun, let's talk. Let's talk. I mean, what else is there to talk about? How long I don't even know how long we've been going because I can't see how long I've been recording for. With the way I'm recording, I'm just recording my screen, and it doesn't give you like a runtime or anything. It doesn't count down, count up, whatever. But I don't know. I guess we could talk about the Beatles. The Beatles. Recently, like a couple days ago, I started listening to their discography in order, chronological order, and I got like 5 albums done. I listened to the first 5 albums in like 3.5 hours, and I thought that it was kind of they weren't that half of their career. Their career is weird. Their career is weird. It is. They started in 1963 and they ended in 1970. They only went for 7 years, but over the course of those 7 years, they released like I think it was like 13 fucking albums and like a bunch of other songs too. And they did they were a cultural phenomenon. They were really like the first modern band. They were like the first rock band, and all that. And they were pop icons too. And they were kind of like the first boy band in a lot of ways as well. But so I've listened to the first 5, and so I think that's what is that? That's Please Please Me is the first one. First one is Please Please Me. The second one is With the Beatles. The third one is I'll pull it up. I'll pull it up before we talk any more about it. But Simoun, you've listened to a couple of their albums as well. You've listened to their later stuff though, so you haven't listened to the early stuff. I listened to the early stuff. You listened to the later stuff. You've listened to Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band and the White Album, right? You've listened to those two. And what I want you to do while I look for the names of the albums that I listened to, I want you to tell me a little bit about your experience. What is the music's Beatles? What are the Beatles' music to you, and what kind of impressions did you get from it? What impact did it have on you? What do you think? What's your opinion? Go talk me through some of that while I pull this up. So the floor is yours.
I just said they're being so phenomenal. For example, as of now, I think that they still get the recognition that they had from from their peak of the from their era. I thought that they've been in a band for a couple of decades from the recognition that they get or how influential they are in the field of music. I think, in my opinion, how they get into this stardom or really become more significant or really significant when it comes to the field of music is uh, how uh, how their musics are really related to the era that they are starting. For example, there's some they say that it's more on it touches on the culture of the hippies, for example, the Vietnam War, the uncertainties that happened and during that period. Uh, those uncertain they connect into these special events or centered events that took place, or especially and also the important ones make them interesting or really special or memorable or really big on the field of music. But listening to the whole album, I did review three of their album, but I still get into the songs that I like before I even run to an analysis or background or go into their discography.
Right. Yeah, I mean they're very 60s. They are very 60s. And it their career is kind of perfect in that sense because they started in the early 60s, they ended in 1970. They never really went beyond that. I mean, they had solo careers, the four of them. John Lennon has a solo career. Paul McCartney has a solo career. Ringo Starr, George Harrison, right? So those are the four Beatles. They all have solo careers. They all did things with other artists too. But the Beatles, the four of them together, that went out. That died in the 60s. That didn't die necessarily, but it was born and it I guess stopped for a little. It stopped in the 60s, but it continues to live on today. But even today, even the most hardcore of Beatles fans, they have to acknowledge the fact that they're very much a 60s band. It's very much a 60s sound. The kind of music that they make. It's that, it goes from kind of like doo wop wop wop, like kind of like an extension of like 50s kind of. I thought their early career, they're almost like a barbershop quartet with instruments. They go from that very kind of poppy love song kind of sound to more psychedelic, experimental, like let's all do drugs in my dorm room, kind of psychedelic rock kind of sound. So vibe, so they do have a transition, but all of it's like 60s, and they do kind of encapsulate the 60s in that sense as well, because the 60s as a decade was a period of transition. It was a transitional period, an era. It was between the 50s and the 70s. It was kind of in a lot of ways, it was kind of the passage into modernity that we have, the modernity that we have now, the modern world that we have today. It all kind of starts in the 70s, but the 60s was what made it happen. You have the sexual revolution, you have a new wave of liberals coming in, and kind of the end of the end of the conservatives kind of in power. I mean, you got Reagan in the 80s and everything, but it's kind of there's a lot of upheaval. There's a lot of social changes. JFK gets shot and killed. A lot of things change. Just a lot happens. A fucking shit ton happens. You go to space. We go to the fucking moon or whatever, don't we? Challenger happens, doesn't it? So maybe not Challenger, but space and shit. It's the space age. It's a lot. A lot goes down. Too much to go over in one single sitting. It's a lot to process. I mean, it's just so much happened, right? I mean, and yeah, obviously Vietnam War too. Obviously Vietnam War, but yeah, and I feel like maybe the reason why a lot of people like the Beatles is not only they're good, they are pretty good. They're good, and they also they're kind of like their music is a time capsule. Their music is a time capsule, just like Knausgaard's books are a time capsule for his own life and the 70s to the 2010s, just over the course of 6 novels. The Beatles over the course of 13 albums. they trace the 60s, the start of the 60s to the end of the 60s, more or less. And well, for me, I guess to talk about my little quick experience, I'm hoping I hope I'm not being too loud, but I have to make sure that they can hear me, so I'm shouting like a retard. But the albums the albums I listened to were Please Please Me, With the Beatles, A Hard Day's Night, Help, Rubber Soul, and Revolver. So I've listened to 6 of the 13 so far. I have 7. Or I have 7 left to go. And then the compilation they did, which is called Past Masters, which was released in 1988. Past Masters is all the songs that they didn't have on their studio albums. It was all like the B-sides, all the extra stuff. That's like 90 minutes long, that compilation. So that's all the extra stuff, right? But I've listened to 6 of the 13 main albums so far, and I have to start on Sgt. Pepper. So you listen to Sgt. Pepper. I'm right about to listen to it. So we kind of, we connect, we meet in that way, So I'm gonna take this time right now to talk about what I thought about like the first 6 albums, and then you can talk about what you in specific, because you talked about the Beatles in general, but now we'll get into the specific albums and the specific eras within the context of their career, right? So yeah, I mean, I don't feel like this is gonna take me too long to talk about on my end, honestly. Please Please Me from 1963. That's the first album. I thought it was very poppy. They're kind of nothing like the Beatles yet. They don't have their own identity. They don't have their style. You can't really tell that it's them. I looked at the picture on the album, and they don't look anything like themselves. They don't have their outfits. They don't have the weird the bowl cuts. They don't have the turtlenecks or anything. They don't have their look. They're not really established yet. They're just getting started. But it's impressive because they can all play like 5 different instruments each. Like they can all play like a bunch of different instruments. They all do a lot. They're all very talented musicians. It's kind of crazy that you can get that level of talent 4 times over, times 4. They're all like prodigies. And so it's a really interesting dynamic. These 4 people coming together, they're incredibly talented, and they work really well as a group, which you wouldn't expect. I mean, it's a wonder that they managed to last like as long as they did. It was only 7 years, but they did a lot of stuff. They had heavy output. Insane output. But yeah, it's like usually creative differences and stuff push groups like that away even sooner. So it is crazy that they are who they are. Like they do deserve to be a phenomenon in that sense. But that being said, as far as their music goes, I didn't really find anything particularly impressive in Please Please Me, the first album. I just thought it's a lot of the songs, they're about the same things. It's pop, it's pop. Let's appeal to as many people as possible. Let's be as vague and simplistic as possible, kind of, all the songs are just like, oh, I lost my girlfriend. Oh, I want to date this girl or whatever. It's just a bunch of love songs, it's a bunch of love songs, and they're all kind of, a lot of them are, they seem to be directed towards like a female audience almost, like female listeners, maybe girls back then, they listen, the girls of the early 60s, they would hear something like that on the radio and imagine that John Lennon was singing it to them or something, That's kind of how they started out. They started out as that sort of thing. They were kind of dreamboaty, even though they were all fucking ugly as hell and had terrible haircuts. Like people liked that, And I guess it was a case of, the guys want to be them, the girls want them, the guys want to be them. But honestly, I feel as though the second half of their career is where they get their male audience. They get the men they get the guys to kind of be a little more interested, because that's where the psychedelic rock comes in. That's where the experimentation comes in, the drugs, those are things that most girls, typically speaking anyway, that's a lot of things that girls wouldn't really be interested in. That might be too hardcore for them. They prefer the love songs, they prefer that dynamic. But in general, obviously, there are exceptions to every rule, and that's a huge, it's a generalization on my part, but just generally speaking, I feel like that's where the career is. The first half of their career would probably appeal more towards a female audience. The second half would probably appeal more to a male audience. But now today, everything, it's modern now, so everyone can do whatever they want, right? And so it works on all levels. You know what I mean? It's all universal at this point. So it's cool how that works. So there's a little bit of something for everybody in their career. You know what I mean? Everyone can find something to enjoy, I think. or at least appreciate, or at least respect. You know, I don't know if they're an essential group. You know, I don't know if like every single person should sit down and listen to the Beatles. I'm not sure if it's worth it, honestly. From what I've listened to so far, anyway. I can't say that I think that it would change a person's life if they sat down and listened to the Beatles. You know, at least not yet. I haven't gotten to the later stuff though. The later stuff is you know, all the other albums. It's funny too because it's like the most famous albums are the ones I haven't listened to yet. I haven't listened to Abbey Road or Yellow Submarine or Magical Mystery Tour or Let It Be yet. I haven't listened to any of those, so I can't really say. But so far, you know, from Please Please Me to Revolver, there have been some pretty good songs, some really catchy ones. Because even when they were a pop band, you know, even before they started all the experimentation and everything, they were good. They were good at making pop songs, you know. And there are some that are really catchy that I wouldn't mind listening to for like, you know, an hour at a time. You know what I mean? Honestly, like I could probably have them on loop. But yeah, just in general, that's kind of how I feel about their early stuff. Please Please Me is okay. It's not. They're not really themselves yet. With the Beatles, half of it was really good, and the other half was just more of what was in the first album, Please Please Me. A Hard Day's Night was kind of just more of the same. They experiment with like blues a little more. They become a little more Americanized. Like you can't really tell that they're English in it because they seem to be kind of going for like an Elvis kind of rock and roll sound, you know, little you know, kind of that sort of like Roadhouse rock. Classic rock, but yeah, rock and roll mostly. And then Beatles for Sale, I thought was not that good. I didn't like Beatles for Sale that much at all. Beatles for Sale is their fourth album. They tried to do a lot of blues. It's a very bluesy album, and I just don't think that it was a direction that they really had any business taking. You know, I don't think it suits their style at all. I don't think it's appropriate for what they want, like their direction, I guess. But maybe they didn't know that, and I admire them for trying something new. But before they got into the psychedelic stuff, they did like rock. They did like blues. I mean, blues rock, like blues. Very American, very Elvis Presley, you know. And I don't like it that much. I didn't think it was good. That was the worst album out of all the ones I've listened to so far. Was Beatles for Sale. Help was an album that they made to go. I think it was like a soundtrack for a movie that they did because the Beatles had cartoons and they had movies as well. They had a lot of merchandise. They were a phenomenon. You know, they blew up. They had a little bit of everything. So there was this movie called Help that they were in that was about them. You know, and they starred in it and everything. This was Help. You know, their fifth album. That was a soundtrack that they made for it. And I thought it was all right, but it was a lot of the same stuff. You know, it was a lot of what they're good at. They kind of played it safe. I thought, you know. There were some songs, but they had a lot of iconic songs in there too. I should probably pull up my YouTube because I saved all the songs I like on there. But let me just get through my list real quick, and then we can get into the specifics in a second. But that was Help, and then Rubber Soul. Rubber Soul is their sixth album. That's sort of where they start to get experimental. They start to have Eastern. They start to get like the didgeridoo and like, you know, they get like Indian instruments and stuff. They start fucking around with that a little more. You can tell they're starting to probably do a lot of drugs behind the scenes and stuff. You know, they're getting into it a little more. It's the beginning. I think of it as the beginning of the beginning. I think Revolver is the beginning, and then Sergeant Pepper. That's where it changes completely. You know, but yeah. I thought Rubber Soul was good. I think it's really great because it has that song Norwegian Wood on it. Norwegian Wood is probably my favorite Beatles track so far out of everything I've listened to. I first listened to it when I was 16. Because I read the Japanese novel of the same name. There's a book called Norwegian Wood by a Japanese writer named Haruki Murakami. And back in 2016, people really liked Murakami, and I got on that bandwagon a little bit, I guess. And I read a lot of his books, and you know, I think he's an okay writer. I think he's kind of pseudo-intellectual in some ways, you know. But Norwegian Wood is his best novel, and the character in that listened to the Beatles. And he had other books too called Hear the Wind Sing and Pinball 1974. In Pinball 1974, the character in that novel also listens to the Beatles, and he talks about Rubber Soul, the album, and how it blew his mind and stuff. And so, you know, he recommended it, and I listened to it because of that. I actually listened to the recommendation from the book, and it was good. It's a good song. I like Norwegian Wood. And Rubber Soul, you have Drive My Car as well. That's one of their poppy songs. I like it, but I didn't like it as much as I did when I was 16. I will say that. I think I've kind of grown out of that mindset a little bit. I don't like it as much as I used to, but it's still good. But I was a little disappointed by it. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little underwhelmed by the rest of the tracks. But yeah, and then Revolver was it was okay. It was all right. They made some more songs. They started to branch out a little bit. They got a little more diverse in terms of their composition, in terms of the kinds of songs that they're making. Now they're starting to write songs that tell stories, that have narratives to them. So they're getting a little more artistic, but it's still kind of the beginning. I feel like Sgt. Pepper's the first like real kind of Beatles album, the first true Beatles album. So I'm really excited. I'm really looking forward to getting into the second half of their career. But that's what I've listened to so far. I'll read you all I'm pulling it up on my phone right now. I'll read you all the songs that I saved onto my playlist. These are the songs that I thought were good enough to, for me to listen to again. So let me see what I got here. Oh shit. Hold on a sec. I'm rearranging all my fucking shit. Just trying to scroll through. One sec. Almost there. Okay. So all the songs. So this is starting with "Please Please Me." I saw her standing there. There's a place. Twist and Shout. Those are the three songs I thought were significant from Please Please Me. Songs from with the Beatles. It Won't Be Long. All I've Got to Do. All My Loving. Little Child. Till There Was You. Please Mr. Postman. Roll Over Beethoven. And Hold Me Tight. So those are the 8 tracks that I took from that I like the most from with the Beatles. From which one is this? From A Hard Day's Night, I had 2, Anytime at All, and I'll Cry Instead. From Help, I had Help, You've Got to Hide Your Love Away, I Need You, I've Just Seen a Face, and Yesterday. And Yesterday's, it's the name of a movie that they did, actually. A movie that was like a tribute to the Beatles. It's about this guy who goes back in time and writes the Beatles music so that he can take all the credit for it. He can be the Beatles by himself, I guess. I haven't seen it, but I heard it was good. And Yesterday is the name of that, and it comes from Yesterday, from the album Help. And it's a really good song. It's one of their best songs, and I like it a lot. It's not my favorite. My favorite's still probably Norwegian Wood, but it's up there. From Beatles for Sale, I didn't have any. I didn't like Beatles for Sale at all, so I didn't think any of the tracks were good. At least in my opinion, I didn't like them anyway. From Rubber Soul, I had Drive My Car, Norwegian Wood, Nowhere Man, Think for Yourself, Michelle, I'm Looking Through You, In My Life, Wait, and Run for Your Life. So I had 9 from that one, 9 tracks. And then from Revolver, I had Eleanor Rigby, I'm Only Sleeping, Yellow Submarine, She Said, and Good Day Sunshine. And Eleanor Rigby was the song that they did. It was about loneliness, actually. It was really interesting. It was about this old woman who doesn't have any kids or doesn't have a husband and doesn't have any friends, and she just dies, and no one cares. The only person who cares is a priest who has to bury her. And the priest, no one cares about the priest either. He writes these sermons, for church, and no one attends his services at the church he works at. So it's about loneliness, and I liked it. It was a good narrative. It had a story. It had characters. It was cool. I hope that they do more of that. I hope that they do more like that in the albums to come. But that's my experience with the Beatles. And now I want to turn it over to you, Simone. Talk to me about your experience with the Beatles. Starting with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and then transitioning on, moving forward to the White Album. So the floor is yours now, man. Go ahead whenever you're ready. I'd be really curious to hear, what songs were your favorite, what you thought of each album in particular, what you thought of the changes, all of that. Just, just say as much as you want, Floor is yours. Anytime you're ready. I'll just kick back and breathe, so I can, I'll play some games and stuff. I'll breathe. Go ahead.
I'm putting out. I'm looking for the list of the songs I already forgot about where I did I put. Okay. So be honest, I can't remember that much as you did. Which you did your review just a few days ago. So mine is just a kind of vague. Because after the review, listening to all the songs, I didn't have the chance to listen to it again. That uh, the way that I enjoyed it that much as I should do. But I can't remember some of the songs that I like. Looking back into the titles, like songs like I guess that it's really evident, but it's just how most artists they're able to reflect what they are doing. For example, if they do drugs or there's some tragic events that happen in their life or lab notes or the events that are taking place in the world, they are able to put it in their songs. That's how I think like surgery Pepper's Hearts this is uh, songs are really different from each other for me. It's just they they did different experimentation with each. But then I can't remember what some of the songs are thinking about, but I don't know. It's really vague, but I want to share some, but it might have been misleading if I share some. If I am not sure about it. So yeah, but it's just. And also, I think about your experience having um, rehabilitation. It's not rehabilitation. It's Asian in India. Uh, they get into they get a lot from the inspiration from their music. The later uh, era of the Beatles get a lot of inspiration from that experience. So I see it. It's just most of the songs are inspired from what they get, not only the whole experience, but also the culture itself. Or they use instruments or musical styles that are originated from India. It doesn't. It's a whole lot of. It did great for the creative process of the band, but I agree with you that there wasn't a um, compared it with bands that you recommended, for example, or something. I don't know. It's not really good to compare it with Blink Body. I guess for me, it's much more. They get more impact when it comes to me when I get into their songs. Again, I really to compare it with what we talked about yesterday about Kafka. Maybe there's a similarity between the time that they started and the time that we are living at. That might be the context of this for us to enjoy it as much as the people from that certain era enjoyed it. But I kind of enjoy some of their songs, maybe because of the influences of my parents, or it's really these old songs uh, are still in speak in this country. For example, most of the most of my relatives are in that demographic, so I tend to hear this song when the playing their speaker. So kind of have a memory of my childhood.
Cool. Well, I think we're coming up to like an hour now. Hopefully, I think we're coming to the end of this episode of Imperial Reposes. Is there anything else you want to say before we go?
don't know. Maybe I sleep after this.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next one. Stay tuned.